having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Last week on the Fantasy Forecast, we tracked the clear skies and pinpointed those low ADP breakout stars, the sunshine picks ready to brighten your roster without costing a fortune. But every forecast has storm clouds on the horizon. This week, we're shifting gears to track the ADP storms, players rising too fast on draft boards who might bring thunderous disappointment. Producer! Welcome once again to the Fantasy Forecast with Grindberg and bigz and Schultze. I am bigz. He is Grindberg. Over there on the other side is Schultze. I hope my audio was okay on that cold open. Cold open's back, you guys. You guys, we are scanning for the hype hurricanes, the shaky rolls hidden behind sunny projections, and those costly landmines lurking just beneath the surface. Mastering ADP isn't just about chasing rays of value. It's about reading the radar and steering clear of risky picks that can drown your season. We're going to put on our storm goggles and navigate these draft board tempests so you draft smart and avoid getting caught in the lightning. Oh, no. What's up, guys?
Hey, man. How's it going today, bigz? You doing well?
I'm well, yeah.
How about you, Schultze?
Hey, we're doing good. Just like weathermen, we're going to be half right.
I love the call there. Yeah, I mean, we can't get them all right, but we can get most of them right. And yes, we will try and navigate through these storm clouds because there's some guys we're going to be talking about today that we're going to be warning you guys about their ADP and where they're going in drafts. And some of these guys we're just, steering clear of. And let's get this show going. We're each going to have 3 guys we're going to spotlight here today. And they're going to be names that you may not want to hear. They're going to be names that are like mainstream names that you're just looking at your draft board and you're like, hey, this is a guy. This is a good name. But we're here to tell you that maybe where they're going in drafts aren't exactly the cream of the crop. Now, we're going to start with you, bigz. What do you got on the storm front for us today, buddy?
Well, one of the worst things about landmines is that they take you by surprise. Like, you don't know. You're just walking along with them. Ba-boom! So I have a running back who's currently being drafted at running back 4. Now, the potential for this guy to land at running back 1 is not non-existent. In fact, he was pretty much the RB1 according to ADP in last year's drafts until he got hurt, which was Achilles tendonitis, and then he missed a bunch of time. He went to Germany for some specialist work, and then it was discovered that he had Achilles tendonitis in both feet. And of course, I'm talking about San Francisco 49ers running back Christian McCaffrey. We know the profile. We know his productivity. I don't know if I'm willing to use the RB4 to bank on him being back and not being debilitated and being able to finish a full season. Now, if Christian McCaffrey finishes a full season, he may just well wind up the RB1. I'm willing to take that chance maybe around RB12. I'm willing to take a chance on ADP that he's going to sneak into the top 10. I'm not willing to waste the RB4 draft capital to find out he's only going to play in 6 games. So it's basically a mitigation of, boom versus bust. And I think that Christian McCaffrey right now is, for me, more on the bust side.
This is a totally fair take here, man.
Schulte, you got anything to add to that? Or are you on that train?
Yeah, man. I'm with him. The thing that's scary here is the Achilles tendonitis, and that's just like the thing that's going to concern you here is it's just going to be a pain management thing all season long. And like we've seen with running backs specifically, Achilles, like, man, that's really going to mess you up. And so there is a ton of potential here for him to slip and take a huge hit and not produce the way you want to. And Biggs is right. If you're drafting RB4, like you are expecting him to be in that top 5 echelon, like without question. And there is a lot of questions there. Now, the one thing I got to say about the Germany thing, if he went to Germany for some stem cells, isn't that what Peyton did on the neck? And that worked out okay.
And that's fine. The other thing, and it's been a while since our injury shows with Marcus, Dr. Marcus. But in a lot of those shows, I kind of relayed my own stories of being an athlete, suffering injuries, and then dealing with the aftermath thereof. And one thing that I found out through my own personal experience is that when you have injuries to joints, it can affect the soft tissue between the joints. So a lot of people I had patellar tendon rip in the front of my knee. So I had knee surgery and it affected my hamstring. People who have ankle stuff, I've had Achilles stuff, and that affects my calf. To this day, where like every once in a while, my hamstring will just be like, I'm going to be tight today and feel like you're pulling it every step up the stairs. And there's no injury there, right? It's just something that they deal with. So if he's got 2 cases of tendonitis in each of his Achilles, that means that he has 2 calves that are ripe for lots of lingering pulls and tears and cramps and tightness and all that stuff throughout the season. And that those lower body injuries, those are the kinds of things that can leave him off the field for half a game or for a whole game, etc. And you got to mitigate the risk. And at RB4, he's just too risky for me.
All right, well, we're going to move on here into another risky player. And on my end here, I'm going to talk about a guy that is, similar, path here, a guy that finished as the wide receiver one not too long ago, you know what I mean? And then I'm talking about Cooper Kupp. Now he's in a new situation, obviously. He's obviously couple of years removed from that historic season 2021 campaign, but the reality here is much murkier now. He's entering his 32 age season with a laundry list of injuries, a new team, and questionable fit in a run heavy Seattle offense helmed by Sam Darnold. Despite the hype and the sleeper buzz, the storm signals are loud and clear here for me on Cooper Kupp. He may no longer be that wide receiver managers remember, and drafting him as a bounce back bargain could end up a disaster in reality here. He's got that declining availability. He missed 17 games over the last 3 seasons, averaging just 11 games played per year, an entire season's worth of absences since 2021. His vanishing efficiency, his yards per route run dropped significantly outside the slot, and under new coach, Clint Kubiak's scheme, I just don't think he's going to be there to be dominating the slot. I think that JSN is going to be in there quite a bit. His speed, his separation is fading, and you thinking you're getting an ADP discount on a former star at wide receiver 49, but that reveals I just think he's going to be outside of that with a new system and just things not going his way at this stage of his career. What are your guys' thoughts on Cooper Kupp?
I have not drafted Cooper Kupp at all at any point in any format this year. We're in the middle of June now, getting ready to go to the Scott Fishbowl live draft on Saturday. I've been doing drafts across platforms, Fast Draft, Underdog, Dynasty Startups, obviously Dynasty Rookie Drafts, charity tournaments, etc. And I have not pushed the button on Cooper Kupp one time. So that tells you all you need to know about how I feel.
There you have it. All right, now let's move on to you, Schulte. Who is your number 3 guy that you're kind of fading at their ADP right now that the storm is clouding over their future?
So if you are a Dynasty Pulse listener, you should be, first of all. If you are, you heard me talk about him last week, but I'm kind of out on, not totally out, but I'm concerned about Marvin Harrison Jr. this season. A lot of people are expecting this guy to, well, he's an early 4th round pick, and a lot of people are expecting him to take that next step after a solid rookie season where he had 800 yards. Yeah, 885 yards and 8 touchdowns. So, I mean, it was a good debut. He was definitely overshadowed by the other rookies of the class, but it was still a good rookie season for the guy. This offseason, he's loaded up on muscle. He's absolutely ripped now. And once again, people are looking for the big step forward in the second year from him. And the talent is there. I don't deny the talent. I think he's got the ceiling and the capabilities to take this step. But my concerns lie outside of the player. It's entirely the offense. It's Kyler Murray. They haven't made any coaching changes, so we're going to likely be utilizing this guy the same way he was last year, and it just wasn't great for fantasy. Kyler wasn't great throwing to him. He was 64th among wide receivers in catchable target rate. Marvin Harrison was with Kyler throwing to him, and 92nd among wide receivers at target accuracy. So Kyler trying to get this dude the ball just wasn't working. I don't know what it was. I just don't expect that to improve. My other big concern here is Trey McBride. He's going to be the leading target getter on the offense. That's not changing. So Marvin's going to be second, and I don't see a world here soon, especially in this offense playing with Kyler, where he supplants McBride as the leading target getter. And that is kind of my big concerns here. I'm not denying the talent of the player. It's just the situation he's in. They did nothing to change, and I think they're going to utilize him similarly. And Trey McBride is still going to be the guy in that offense. So I'm a little leery on Marvin Harrison as an early 4th round pick.
Go ahead, Grindberg.
Yeah, man, I agree with you there, man, 100%. I mean, bigz and I have been talking about this for a number, ever since last summer, really. I mean, worried about Marvin Harrison entering the league, and then after the last season surge here, Kyler's not able to see him very well down the field. And like you mentioned, the Trey McBride situation, I'm on you 100% here. I still see that Marvin's got a bright future, but I think it's going to have to happen with another quarterback that he gels a little bit better with. Biggs, are you agreeing with that sentiment?
I'm in that boat too. The only thing that kind of gives me pause is that over the last few years, I've seen real flashes of brilliance and genius from Drew Petzig, the offensive coordinator for Arizona. And the best example is the game plan against the Dallas Cowboys a couple of years ago, where Dallas was, they were on a track to go to the Super Bowl. They go up against Arizona, who had the worst record in the league, something like that. And he devised a game plan, a scheme that went directly at Micah Parsons, negating him. And Arizona jumped out to a huge lead and went on to win the game. The guy knows what he's doing. So if there's any change to the routes that Marvin Harrison Jr. is asked to participate in this year, I think that will come from Drew Petzig and his assessment of last season, going, well, maybe he was running a little bit too far downfield. If there's any kind of adjustment in that circumstance, then it might lead to more target accuracy for Marvin Harrison Jr., which would lead to more receptions, and in PPR formats, that's pretty good. The problem is it's going to cut down on his average depth of target and his yards per route run, which is going to balance out the scoring. And I think at this point, around 800 to 900 yards and 6 to 8, 9, 10 touchdowns is about the ceiling that we can expect from Marv, until such time as he has a quarterback like, say, a Geno Smith, somebody who is tall in the pocket, stands there, gets hit, doesn't bail out, and throws the ball down the field with accuracy. I think that's the potential that Marvin Harrison Jr. needs to achieve, and that's only going to come from a capable quarterback. That's not Kyler Murray.
I love it.
Yeah, and that stat line that you brought up is extremely similar to what he did last year, which brought him a wide receiver 30 finish. And early 4th round pick, that's not cutting it for you.
Correct.
Yeah, he's going to have to make a major leap here to, return value on his ADP. So that's a good call there, Schultze. What else is a good call? Is we haven't heard from our sponsor in the last little while. Let's hear what's going on here at the Fantasy Sports Advice Network, Schultze.
You want me to push a button or something? Or no, Schultze.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com. And you know what you can do there? You can get our pro plan, and that'll qualify you for Jersey Leagues. Those Jersey League drafts are coming up in a couple months. You're going to want to get that. So get that.
Absolutely. And we did talk a little bit about a listener league last year, but I think we're at a stage now where this is a must-happen kind of thing that we're going to have to do. So let's get our viewers in here. If you want to join our listener league, please comment on our stuff, and we'll get you in the hat on joining our lucrative Jersey League for the Fantasy Forecast.
You think you could beat me? You think you could beat me?
Comment Grindberg sucks eggs if you want to join a listener league.
There you go. Okay, let's hear it from Schultze. Okay, Grindberg sucks eggs, and you're in 100%. All right, bigz, let's get into your next guy. Talk about him.
Okay, well, if I were to tell you that there was a wide receiver who was being drafted as the wide receiver 7, you would probably assume that he has reached that goal at some point in his 4 full seasons that he's played in the NFL, correct? Am I wrong in assuming that? I think somebody whose best finish is wide receiver 12. I don't think that projecting him in year 5 to hit wide receiver 7 is anything that's very smart to do. So I would not be surprised if all of the people in the listener league besides me picked Nico Collins as the wide receiver 7 and he returned wide receiver 12, points for the year. Nico Collins is now in a situation where, sure, we can expect CJ Stroud to take a step forward. He's got a lot of young weapons. He's got the Iowa State Cyclones boys over there. He's got Jaden Higgins to run X routes. He's got Jalen Knoll to run slot routes. He's got Nico Collins to run all over the field. We know what Nico Collins brings, and he is an absolute game changer when he's on the field. Problem is he's never always been on the field. And for 4 seasons we've watched his potential be hampered by injuries. Not saying he's going to be injured in year 5, but now there are more options to go to than just Nico. So again, this is very similar to the Christian McCaffrey talent level, the Marvin Harrison Jr. talent level, the Nico Collins talent level. I'm not out on Nico Collins as a talented receiver. I'm out on his ability to finish 17 games and what that production you could get at wide receiver 7 from somebody similar. If we look at who's going around him, he's going before Brian Thomas Jr. Are you willing to take that bet that Nico Collins is going to be healthy and he's going to outscore Brian Thomas Jr.? I'm not. Drake London is behind Thomas. I'm absolutely smashing Drake London and Brian Thomas Jr. before that. Ladd McConkey, he was banged up a little bit last year, but when he was healthy, we saw what he could do, and it's not like he has a vast injury history. All 3 of those wide receivers I'm drafting before I'm drafting Nico Collins. And hey, I was huge on the Nico Collins bandwagon entering his year 3. I was calling for a Nico Collins breakout, and that's when he had his best season. But his best season was wide receiver 12. Why are we drafting him at wide receiver 7 when his best season ever when he played a full season was wide receiver 12? What is happening, people?
What are we doing, people? Yeah, I mean, coming from you, bigz, who was one of the biggest Nico Collins ambassadors I know. I think you hit right on the nail here because, they bring in some talent as well. The book is still not out on, CJ Stroud. And that's a risky proposition at, a position that he hasn't hit that wide receiver 7 finish yet. So, yeah, you're betting on projections, not performance at this stage.
Garrett Wilson is going as wide receiver 14. Who in their right mind would rather have Nico Collins than Garrett Wilson?
A lot of people.
Except the losers of the Jersey League.
There you go. All right. Well, I'm going to talk about another wide receiver here, and it's hard to bet against this guy, especially after that crystal clear season he had in 2024 and the last 10 seasons in reality. And I'm talking about a 32-year-old veteran presence here. And Mike Evans, he enters this season as one of the league's oldest starting receivers, and 10 straight 1,000-yard seasons. The resume is bulletproof, and every season of his career, he's had that 1,000-yard, benchmark. Elite red zone consistency. He's an elite contested catch getter, a bounce back efficiency last year, and it's just not a legacy that you can really take lightly, and that's why I'm having a hard time putting his name out. But what I see happening here, the writing's on the wall for me, for him to, take a step back. They force-fed him in that last game to get that 1,000 yards, and things are looking a little bit different for him, after the draft as well. He had a production dip last year with a healthy Chris Godwin in the lineup. The first couple games there, he only averaged 7 targets and 51 receiving yards when Godwin was in the lineup. That age cliff is coming. He is 32, and it's not, normal for wide receivers to produce at such a high rate this late in their career. The competition is heating up in Tampa. They just spent a first-round pick, which shocked a lot of people, on a wide receiver, Emeka Egbuka. They saw Jalen McMillan last year emerge, and that crowded wide receiver room is getting, pretty competitive. He is, dependent on touchdowns as well, which is misleading. So we're going to have to see Mike Evans really pull things together to hit his ADP in round 3 at this stage. And that's just a little bit too much, too rich for my blood at this stage with the competition they brought in, his age, and what I see around him. What are you guys' thoughts on Mike Evans?
I'm on board with this take. Yeah, dude, if they didn't bring in Emeka Egbuka, I think I'd be a lot cooler, a lot more confident in drafting him where he's going. But it just, once again, it's just going to muddy this wide receiver room up, and everything else you said is on point. But yeah, it's a lot of target competition here. And when you're drafting a guy this early, you don't want that question lingering over him.
Yeah, I tend to agree, although I have made this point about Davante Adams as well. When we look at some of the histories of guys who have succeeded in the NFL for a very long time, guys that don't win with speed tend to last a little bit longer. And Mike Evans has never won. Well, he hasn't recently won with speed. Davante Adams never won with speed. Jerry Rice never won with speed. They win with crisp route running. They win with knowing how to play against a defensive back to, post up, take advantage, use their body, things like that. Mike Evans has always been a good body guy. He's very good at posting up on D-backs and just using his size to outmuscle people. So that is going to be a skill set that is going to linger for a while. He doesn't need to beat guys off the line. He just needs to get his body in good position. However, it's the dilution of the target share that is really going to kind of look at, or kind of work its way into, can he go 11 seasons in a row with 1,000 yards? I personally think he can, but I also think, again, the ADP is a little bit too rich. If I'm looking at guys that I'm more willing to take a shot on, I'm looking at Teteroa McMillan. He doesn't want to be called Teteroa McMillan or T-Mac. That's what he wants to be called. He's going as wide receiver 22, which is 2 spots behind Mike Evans. So you can say that they're in the same tier, but what's happening with Teteroa McMillan is that he is going to be the number 1 target in the Carolina Panthers offense. You've got other guys. DK Metcalf doesn't have a whole lot of target competition. Zay Flowers, Calvin Ridley, those guys are going behind Mike Evans, and I don't think at this point I'm willing to pull the trigger on Evans before I draft those guys. So somebody else is going to have Mike Evans on their roster. I'm going to have the other guys.
Love it. All right, there, Schultz. It's your turn to mix in maybe a running back here.
Hey, I see what you did there, man. So we just hit on one Houston Texan, and I'm going to another, and it's Joe Mixon.
Oh, Mixon.
Yeah, there it is. So last year was great for him, right? I mean, I think he was running back 17, which was a solid finish for where people people were kind of writing him over as he's getting a little older, and he had a good season last year. But now he's entering his age 29 season. We all know what that 30 number does for running backs here. And last year, like I mentioned, it was a good year, but he was very, very volume dependent. He had 245 carries, and that included him missing a handful of games. So if you look after their week 14 bye, his snap share and carries started dropping. And I think that's a result of them realizing, like, hey, we got to preserve this dude. And, like, we can't be relying on him to have 20, 25 carries a game. So I think the signing of Nick Chubb proofs in the pudding on that one. I think we're moving into more of a split backfield here. And I know Chubb is older as well. And I don't expect him to, like, be like a super impactful fantasy guy or anything, but he's going to chip away at that carry number from Mixon. And when a guy is very volume dependent, if we are projecting someone to take away from that, like, that's concerning. He had 11 touchdowns last year. It's the second most of his career. You have to think Chubb's going to steal a handful of those. They also brought in Woody Marks, who projects as a passing down guy. And you're going to be looking to steal some snaps away from Mixon on some third down stuff. And once again, concerning. And he only had 36 receptions last year. So I'm just looking for him to lose volume, lose snaps, lose some touchdowns, lose some receptions. And where he's being drafted is right around where he finished last year. And if we're taking all that stuff away from him, I just don't see the repeat performance here.
I tend to agree. Joe Mixon was one of my hits/misses last year. I hit on the fact that he wasn't going to finish the full season. I missed on the fact that his fantasy points per game was elite, and that kind of bit me. His final resting place in the running back rankings was higher than I had imagined it to be. So he still showed that he was capable of being explosive and putting up points in big bunches. But again, like you said, that was volume dependent, and he's older now. I was calling the 28-year-old age cliff last year. This year, he's a year on from that. So now the Houston Texans they're throwing caution to the wind. They've got two guys that are 29 years old that one of them is even going to turn 30 during the season next year, Nick Chubb. They are eschewing the idea of running backs that have been elite falling off at age 28 or 29, and they're going guns a-blazing for those old guys. So we'll see how that works out, but I'm not going to have any part of it.
And this is an offensive line that is garbage. Like, it is just a trash offensive line, and they got rid of the one dude who is worth anything in Larry Tunsil.
And there's a strong possibility that Nick Chubb is actually the more healthy one in this situation than Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's coming off an injury. They don't even know where his situation is at, and this could be actually an insurance policy for Joe Mixon at this stage. So, I'm right on there with you there, Schultz. And you know what? We're right on here with their bigz is some of the stuff that's going on at the merch shop. Do you want to talk about that?
Stuff's going on at the merch shop, guys. So go to the merch shop. There you can get merch. We have merch, fantasy forecast shirts, team-related shirts, fantasy football joke shirts. There's a lot of merch. Go get your merch. FantasySportsAdvice.com merch store.
There you have it. All right, now we're going to get into our spotlights. And our spotlights, there are some juicy names on here, and I'm excited to share them with our viewers. bigz, you were number one on the slate here, so let's get your spotlight video up, and you're going to talk about your number one guy who is
okay.
Controversial. Let's go.
Okay, I'm going to talk about my number one guy, and that is Bucky Irving. Now, we all know what Bucky Irving did last year. He came out of nowhere. Everybody was totally down on him coming out of the combine.
Except for me.
Except for Schultz. And what did Bucky Irving do? He finishes RB13. That's not bad. But again, we're seeing a case of a guy who's being drafted ahead of where he has been historically. Now, we know what Rachaad White can do, and we know that Rachaad White was banged up last year. And a lot of Rachaad White's value comes in the passing game. So if you want to say, okay, Bucky Irving is between the tackles, he's going to be the early down guy, and they're going to work Rachaad White in, okay, that's fine. but they did pretty much split the carries last year. Both of them dealt with some injury issues, minor ones. They only missed a game, if that. But it was a pretty split backfield. There's a new offensive coordinator in town. Things aren't going to be the same. And Rachaad White has a top 5 finish as a running back. He's excellent in the receiving game. Baker Mayfield knows it. That leaves Bucky Irving off the field on third downs. And if Rachaad White even gets some modicum of daylight in being a first or second down running back, he's gonna take over. I like Bucky Irving. I don't like him at cost. I don't think that drafting him as a top 10 running back is a very good idea. And I'm going to go through this again like I did with my last guys. These are some of the guys who are being drafted behind Bucky Irving that I'm more willing to pull the trigger on. Josh Jacobs at RB10, Breece Hall at RB12, even maybe Kyron Williams at RB13, Kenneth Walker at RB16, and Alvin Kamara at RB19. I would much rather roster those guys than Bucky Irving, and I can have them at value and let somebody else take on the Bucky Irving debt.
Yeah, but Schulte, do you have something to add to this? I know you're a big Bucky Irving fan headed into last year. You were one of the guys that didn't fade him. I let the combine, influence my decision on Bucky headed into last year, which I shouldn't have because I was pretty high on him headed into the draft. But then the combine happened. His metrics didn't show well, and I kind of faded him, which maybe I shouldn't have. But so what's your take on bigz' situation? Are you on board with his draft capital right now? Do you see him emerging further past his rookie season?
So when we're talking about, we talked about Nico Collins, you're going off projection, not production. I think this one makes a little more sense because he didn't have that role from the get-go. And you can say, hey, if he had this role all season long, he would have been there. But I'm still a little scared of this ADP. We've really steamed this up, especially for a back who is going to have another guy playing with him a handful now, and Rachaad White, like bigz talked about. I don't think we can discount the Liam Cohen departure here. This run scheme the Bucs have been using that allowed Bucky to flourish is just so creative in the way they get the backs of the ball and they get him into space even on shotgun runs and stuff. He took the 30th ranked rushing offense into a top 5-10 unit in a year. So I don't think we can just sit here and say this rushing offense is gonna output exactly the same, the same way that we've seen out of this offense. So I think that's a legitimate concern as well. And yeah, these are question marks you don't want to have for a top 10 running back.
The saddest part about the Liam Cohen turnaround of that running game is that Bucky Irving was the beneficiary of an improved offensive line. Rachaad White ran behind the 30th ranked offensive line in his RB5 season. So, or whatever, RB2, RB5, he hit top 5, and it was behind an atrocious offensive line. That offensive line has been beefed up, and I think that both of the running backs will benefit. But it's a timeshare. It's a running back by committee. It's a who's hot right now. And they've come out and said that. You have other situations. I mentioned Josh Jacobs earlier. There's no competition for Josh Jacobs. He's going to be the guy, and they're going to run him into the ground. There are other running backs who are being drafted behind Bucky Irving that are going to be the primary ball carriers. And those are the situations that I'm looking at to exploit, not necessarily somebody who's going in the top 10, but as part of a running back by committee. That just turns me off all the way.
Yeah, I agree with that. There we go. All right. And I have a similar situation with my headline guy that I'm going to be spotlighting. Very similar, but he's a bit older. Now, Schulte, run that video, man. So my ADP storm warning number 1 is Jonathan Taylor, and yeah, I know. He reestablished himself as one of the league's premier pure runners, but his fantasy value in 2025 isn't as secure as his name suggests. His dominant finish to 2024 season helped plenty of managers win championships, including myself. but it also masked real concerns: declining efficiency, minimal receiving work, and a growing injury history. At 26, Taylor still has plenty of burst to break out big plays, but he's no longer the volume locked-in RB1 he once was. His second-round ADP and RB7 ranking point to elite upside, but the price tag ignores some red flags. The Colts quarterback situation is a complete mess, with Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones battling for that starting job, and neither of them do a really good job of sustaining a good running back behind them. I know Saquon was there with Jones in New York, but that didn't go well. That was more of necessity than anything. Now you got some competition for early down competitions. Rookie DJ Giddens and free agent signing of Khalil Herbert. Neither back is a superstar, don't get me wrong, but they both specialize in early down work, especially where Taylor's value lives. If the Colts scale back on his usage and keep him healthy, Taylor could slide from that dependable RB1 to a frustrating committee back. Like I said earlier, his receiving work vanished. He only had 18 receptions in 2024, making him game script dependent. His efficiency erosion, 73 rushing yard grade in 2021, ranked 43rd out of 49 running backs last year with 300 carries. Injury red flags, one-dimensional usage, and now a backfield that seems to have some competition with similar skill sets. I'm a little bit afraid of Jonathan Taylor headed into this year. I think he's still going to return some value, but that ADP is just, striking me as a daunting task to overcome here, guys.
So I'm gonna disagree just a little bit. Most of your concerns are also my concerns. However, he was coming off an injury, so I think that we are now a year clear of that, and that's a good sign. I think he sees a bump in efficiency. I agree that the Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson quarterback situation is less than beneficial. However, I do see the Colts maybe leaning a little bit heavier on Jonathan Taylor, knowing that they don't have a guy in the quarterback room who's going to be a proficient passer. So I have been drafting Jonathan Taylor usually a little bit below cost because a lot of people share your concerns. And I've been kind of stocking up on Jonathan Taylor. However, when I do that, I'm also handcuffing him with DJ Giddens, who I believe if Jonathan Taylor were hurt in week 1, DJ Giddens could step in and be the RB1 in that backfield and take it the rest of the way. If at some point this season, Jonathan Taylor has a recurrent injury and he misses time, DJ Giddens is going to take over that backfield. And so I'm making sure that I have that combination just in case. So I'm willing to pay the premium on Jonathan Taylor, but only if I have a competent backup plan to kind of, make sure that I'm going to be okay if something happens to him.
All right there, Schultze. Let's get into your guy.
Hey, so I didn't originally have this as my spotlight, and as I started, he was on my list, but as I started digging in, things just kept popping for me, and I was like, you know what? I got some big time concerns here. I'm going to make him the spotlight. And it's a guy who might be over the hill, you could say, and that's Tyreek Hill. So, hey, Tyreek, third round pick right now in redraft. And it's obviously a down ADP from Tyreek, we know. And so you're getting some of that concern baked into this price here, but I'm still out here, I think. There's a couple things. We have lost some speed. I don't think that's a question. Looking at him last year, it wasn't totally up to the Tyreek we're used to. And then the evolution of how he's being used in the Miami offense is a big concern for me as well. And when you're looking at the speed thing, he was getting around 35 deep targets his first 2 years in Miami, and that was cut in half last year down to 18. So to me, that tells you right there that either one, they're not deploying him deep as much, knowing that he's not going to be wide open as he usually is, or two, they still are deploying him deep and he's just not getting as wide open as we're used to him getting. And then when you look at his yak numbers, 2022 in Miami, he had 495 yards of yak. 2023, he had 652 yards of yak. Last year, he had 292. So the yak numbers are significantly down from his first 2 seasons in this Mike McDaniel offense. And so that tells me also he's lost a step. And he was injured, played through an injury last year. And some people kind of throw that out there as to why we've seen some dip in production, but it was a wrist injury. It was not a leg injury. So to me, playing through a wrist injury should not impact your speed overall. And if you want to use that excuse for some dip in numbers, I'm going to say you're wrong because he only had 2 drops. So if we had gone out here and seen just an absurd number of drops because, he didn't have the hand strength because of the wrist injury or something along those lines, I'd give some credence to that argument. But with 2 drops, he still caught everything coming his way. Now, when you're looking at the evolution of how he's being used, his first 2 seasons in Miami, it was pretty much Jalen Waddle was the only other dude who was garnering targets for themselves. Even Devon Achane's rookie season, he only had 37 targets, I want to say. So he hadn't even been in the picture really yet. And then when you step into last year, you had Waddle and Achane both in the 80 to 90 ballpark. And then surprise, Jonnu Smith at 111. So Tyreek is not the bona fide dude in target share anymore. When you look at 2022, 2023, he was second and first in the league in team target share. He was getting 170 targets in this offense. That is no more. He only saw 123 last year, which is still a solid number. But when you were coming off 2 seasons in a row of 170, that's a big drop off. And looking at yards per route run, this is another one that scares me. 2022, 2023, he led the league. First overall in yards per route run, both seasons. 38th in the league last year. So we've seen he's taken a step back in the speed department. We've seen the yak numbers dip. The target competition is much stiffer than what we've seen in the past out of this offense. And the yards per route run, the efficiency metric has taken a massive dive. I'm having trouble coming up with a ton of positives to say or any reasons at all why I'm expecting a Tyreek rebound. So I'm pretty much out on Tyreek this year in redraft, and I'm going to let other people take that chance.
So I will say that if you look at his 2023 season, his route percentage was 85%, and his routes run was 464. In 2024, his routes run increased to 500, and his route percentage decreased to 78.9%. I think there are some things that we can take from that, especially given that he had 50 fewer targets and he played a 17-game season. And I think it's the usage from the scheme. They're not relying on Tyreek Hill. So a lot more of his routes have become kind of decoy routes, and that's scary. If he does get 170 targets again, of course, we can see huge numbers, a return to top 10, but is Miami really going to do that? They had 2 last year. They had Tyreek Hill play 17 games last year. And going from 170 to 120 targets, a 50 target drop, that's almost 33%. That's not a good sign moving forward. So yeah, I'm out on Tyreek this year too.
I'm a little less out on him for a couple of reasons. He still almost had 1,000 yards receiving last year when he was injured for a lot of the season, and so was Tua. Mike McDaniel is probably playing for his job this year in a really tight division, so they may decide to open things up a bit more and rely on Tyreek. And if he could do I'm not expecting him to come back to elite tier status, but if he could do better than last year, you're still getting a little bit, maybe a bargain on his ADP. I'm not sure exactly where it's at right now, where he's going in rounds, but he's definitely not probably up there in the top 12 at this stage. So, there could be some opportunity there. I'll take some stabs on him where his value will dip if I see an opportunity, but I'm with you here. He's fading, and that injury last year definitely clouded something there, but he's definitely lost a step, and this offense looks different. So Maybe a change with Mike McDaniel, with his job on the line, back to what made them successful, but it doesn't look like they could figure it out at this stage. So, yeah, there's some caution flags there.
I think the tell has to be his routes run increasing and his target share decreasing by 12%. I mean, that's ridiculous. That speaks to me that, okay, we'll put you out there, but we're not going to throw the ball to you. Maybe that's because of the wrist injury and he's fully healthy and they go back to their Tyreek dependent scheme, but you're betting that. You're taking that chance. You're taking on that risk at his ADP. And I'm not willing to do that. And Schultz isn't either.
I think at this point, Mike McDaniel has turned Devon Achane into the failsafe for this offense. It used to be Tyreek. When they needed something quick, just let your guy work, it was always Tyreek. And you saw last year that's Achane now, and he excelled at it. So I think that failsafe role is getting replaced.
Well, I didn't even know that. But I mean, Achane last year was not nearly as efficient as he was 2 years ago when they decided to give him more work. So, I'm a little bit more out on Achane too, as well. And it might, fade out a bit here, but I'm going to take a shot here and there on Tyreek, but I'm definitely not going to invest right on his ADP. If he slides around, then I'm in on him.
The efficiency definitely dropped in the running game, but he caught 78 balls last year compared to 27 his rookie season. So to me, this is Mike McDaniel realizing what this dude can do in the air.
Well, they weren't as nearly as efficient last year as a team using Achane that way. So maybe when they go back to a formula that actually made them win games and become in the playoff hunt, that might be something that they work towards. It could be a scheme thing here too. Interesting. I like this. I like this back and forth stuff here, guys. 45 minutes in, got a great show. We got a lot going on.
It's a long show. That's a long show, and we hope you guys enjoyed it, and hopefully your guys were taking less strays than my guys. But we appreciate you watching. Go ahead and like and subscribe. Hit the bell, all that stuff. Go to fantasysportsadvice.com and go ahead and create an account. Do one of our pro accounts and get into our jersey leagues. Go to the merch store, cop some fantastic merch. Watch all of our shows. Become a Fantasy Sports Advice cult member, please. We hope you win.
Hope you win, folks.
I hope you win.
Peace.
Having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.